Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Former Steelers GM Kevin Colbert joining Colorado State. After spending a few years out of football, Kevin Colbert has re-emerged in the college ranks. According to ESPN's Pete the Mel, the former Steelers executive is joining Colorado State as a consultant. According to the Mel, Colbert's new role will see him working closely with Coach Jay Norvell and Colorado State's player personnel department to help build up the school's football front office. Colorado State is focused on staying at the forefront for the new era of college football, and they're turning to a longtime NFL executive to help their cause. Colbert spent more than 20 years in Pittsburgh, working his way up from director of football operations to general manager. The executive earned a pair of Super Bowl rings during his time with the organization, and he had the distinction of being the organization's first official GM when he was promoted to the role in 2010. During his time guiding the front office, Colbert was credited with adding foundational players, including Ben Roethlisberger and Troy Polamalu. The executive also had a prominent role in the team's transition from Bill Cowher to Mike Tomlin. Colbert stepped down from his role following the 2022 draft, and he's been out of football since. Steelers Senior Bowl thoughts, top needs revealed, Pittsburgh targets breakout star. Mobile, Alabama. The Pittsburgh Steelers love themselves some Senior Bowl players, and that looks primed to continue in 2025. With such heavy focus on the defensive line in the first 2 days, what happened on the third day? Here are my notes from the practices. Assistant General Manager Andy Weidl showed up for the Steelers on Thursday. Head coach Mike Tomlin, General Manager Omar Khan, and others have left to head back to Pittsburgh. Weidl was at the Shrine Bowl last week and is now in Mobile, conducting interviews and getting to know the players. Tracking Weidl, he spent time at just about every need, including quarterback, wide receiver, running back, defensive line, and cornerback. So, it is no surprise to see the Steelers trace what are their top 5 needs in a class deep at 3 of them and shallow in 2, quarterback and wide receiver. A member of the strength and conditioning staff, Rod Moore, was another member on the field for the Steelers. Other scouts, such as Sheldon White, remained in a booth, but Moore watched exclusively defensive linemen. At one point, he talked to Tennessee's Omar Norman-Lott. Weidl, on the other hand, spent a lot of time on the star of the week, Toledo's Darius Alexander. Alexander is explosive and dominated the entire week. Out of the players down here, he may have been the biggest winner from the defensive line crop. He was once a day 3 pick, but this is the start of a strong process that will likely get him into day 2. He said he met with Weidl on Thursday night and is firmly on the team's radar. Florida State cornerback Azariah H. Thomas has only furthered his stock this year to me. He looks like a player who will end up a first-round pick. The combination of size and speed at the position, plus ball skills, is necessary in an NFL where receivers are better than ever, and man coverage is being deployed with a lot of blitz-heavy schemes. Thomas can do all of that, but not only is he a press-man corner, but he is comfortable in off-man coverage and has good eyes in zone coverage. This is a complete cornerback. Virginia Tech running back Bashal Tutin is someone who I have talked up a lot this week, and for a good reason. Tutin is a dynamic zone running back with breakaway speed. That speed is rare, and it alone puts him on the Steelers' radar, given their needs. However, Tutin's pass protection ability was a nice surprise. In backs on backers, Tutin stunned just about everyone he went up against with great fight and surprising hand punch. That gives him some unique 3-down ability that I am not sure I knew he had, but he could, and that only furthers his stock. Steelers T. Higgins rumor gaining steam in free agency. The Pittsburgh Steelers could badly use a receiver like T. Higgins, but would the Cincinnati Bengals actually let him leave? If the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to compete for a championship without a franchise quarterback, the only path is through acquiring high-level talents to turn last year's liabilities into next year's strengths. Chief among those key positions is receiver, where Pittsburgh relied heavily on George Pickens, but struggled with poor depth and consistency for much of the season. Reinforcing the unit by trading for Mike Williams wasn't enough. Signing the biggest contract in free agency might. A Steelers T. Higgins rumor is gaining steam ahead of free agency, and it's largely to the Cincinnati Bengals seeming hesitant to meet his price. Speaking to the Cincinnati Enquirer, Bengals Director of Player Personnel, Duke Tobin, expressed that a reunion is possible but not imminent. "We feel like we have the resources to do it," Tobin said to Kelsey Conway, "but it all depends on how the negotiation goes and whether they're willing to accept wanting to come back at a number that makes sense for everybody. And you know what we do with T going forward. I've always been very upfront in my desire to have T. Higgins on our team. I've never not been upfront about that, and that desire continues, but we have to be able to come together with his representation on what that means and what the right number is for his experience, for his play time, for his production." The Bengals have little reason to let Higgins walk, outside of cap constraints and hefty bonuses ownership may not love. But even in a salary cap league, two parties wanting something bad enough generally ends in a deal getting done. If Higgins hits the open market, though, he would compete, if not beat, Cincinnati's offer. That's where Pittsburgh comes in. Rumor: Steelers love T. Higgins, Andrew Filipponi tweeted. And would be willing to give him more than they were willing to pay Brandon Ayuk in a trade last summer. Could mean as much as $30 million a year. Stay tuned. And are you a fan? What do you think of T. Higgins' situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.